Firefly loses an engine, maybe Starship loses an engine, and it's possible that NASA loses STEM, science, SLS, green airplanes. Kevin, we may be here a while. Roll the intro.
And here we go. We have liftoff.
Propulsion continues to be nominal.
R68 chamber pressure looks good.
Following up. Roger, roger, planet.
Water towers fly! Yes!
Tango down to nominal.
Flight downside FD off. Bring in FD off. Off. It's orange!
Orange 45. Oh my god!
Decollage.
Put that in the big bag, Eagle.
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed. We rise together, back to the moon and beyond.
This methane will be igniting with the flare, correct?
Yikes. You bet. Sure. We don't need any more of these.
Mars sample return, space station funding. Oh, we're back from the intro. Sorry, I was still going through the list. In case you don't know, I am Sawyer Rosenstein, and I'll be your host for today's episode of The Flame Trench, where things are definitely about to get spicy. This is our weekly kind of looser news show where we get to talk about all of the hot button topics and discuss them, and of course, take your opinions and your questions as well. It would be kind of boring if it was just me yapping for 2+ hours, so I am joined by my competent cohort of co-hosts. Jack's not here today, so I got to use the words for him. Who am I joined by today first? I am joined by EJ Saw. EJ, what you reading today?
Oh, hey, I was reading this systems engineering handbook to figure out how to run a space program, because apparently NASA doesn't know how to do that. Anyway. Hi, how you doing?
I'm doing spicy today. I think we're all on that same kind of boat, so
No, it's great.
nice to see you on top of the our hut there with the VAB in the background at KFC.
Yeah, I'm in Florida. Isn't that cool? Yeah, it's nice and warm. It's great.
So you should be right next to somebody then. I don't know.
Oh yeah. He's right over there.
Dee's right over there. You mean D Wise, who's also joining us on today's episode of The Flame Trench. D, how's it going?
Yeah, it's great to be up here with you, EJ and Sawyer. It is, oh my, there's a lot to talk about this week, isn't there?
Just a few things. So, yeah. And a reminder, if you have any questions, you can tag us at NASA Spaceflight. We'll do our best to answer as many of them as we can throughout the show. Just kind of try and keep it to the topic that we're discussing. Trust me, we will get to Starship. We have a lot to discuss with that. But we have a couple other topics that we want to hit first. And boy, the support's already come in before we even get to the first topic. We have to acknowledge the Space Pope blessing this trench, as he does every week, with a $50 super chat. So thank you for that. So that means that we can get started today. And of course, the first topic is not what you think it is. It actually is about Firefly and their most recent launch, where we saw a bit of an observation in that they kind of lost part of a nozzle during the launch. Let me send it over to D for this one.
Yeah, so on Tuesday, Firefly launched their Message in a Booster mission, which was, I was really looking forward to seeing this launch. They are launching a Lockheed Martin LM-400 satellite bus for carrying communication payloads, and it's a really customizable system. And so after some delays, they finally lifted off at 6:37 a.m. local time, that is Pacific, from Slick 2W at Vandenberg Space Force Base in California. Now, everything seemed to go well at liftoff, and it was a bit foggy, and everything seemed to continue well until they got closer to the actual stage separation. We aren't sure exactly what happened, but there seemed to be a rather eventful separation, and it appeared that there was a large amount of debris from the first stage, but then the second stage actually continued on flying, albeit without a nozzle. So the first stage exploded seemingly at separation, and the Lightning engine nozzle extension was no longer attached to the second stage. Now, despite this, the thrust vector control was able to get the second stage back in control to sort of continue on its trajectory, but with that loss of the nozzle extension and efficiency, they were not able to make it to their target orbit, and so it actually re-entered and impacted the Pacific Ocean, though of course we did not see that on stream. Firefly then announced the loss of the payload. You can see there the second stage was sort of tumbling a bit at separation itself until it managed to correct itself, which is really impressive to see that correction, but not enough to actually reach reliable orbit.
Yeah, you could see there was supposed to be an engine nozzle on the end of that, and yeah, there kind of wasn't one. So that's a little bit of an issue, and it made it into what seemed like a decent orbit. Of course, the perigee wasn't going to be able to make it work into actually getting into orbit. As you mentioned, it re-entered and it became fish food of whatever was left, unfortunately. But I mean, EJ, you gotta admit, this is impressive to see this thing continue to fly with that nozzle extension knocked off. And it's also worth noting again that that was a nozzle extension that was on there, right?
Yeah, it was a nozzle extension on the end of the motor. That thing is basically, it's not coming exactly out of the throat, but it's basically coming right out of the throat of the rocket motor. So, sorry, you said it didn't make it into space. Yeah, I mean, it got to a high apogee, which is the highest point in an orbit, but it wasn't enough to get perigee high enough to circularize your orbit, right? The reason why is because if you, and this is why I hate stubby nozzles, right? But what we do know from the stubby nozzles that we've seen fly on other rockets is that the stubby nozzle is there when when lower performance is needed. So what does that mean in plain English? Basically, without that nozzle, the rocket can't direct the gases enough in one direction, and you take a huge efficiency hit when you don't have the right expansion ratio up there. The expansion ratio is basically the shape, basically the long nozzle, right? When you don't have that, you're going to make more thrust, fun fact, because gases can move away from the vehicle faster without the nozzle there, but you are going to take a huge efficiency loss. And that is what we saw here. Now, it is kind of crazy what Dee was saying, that this rocket basically exploded and the second stage somehow corrected and kept going. It's a testament to Firefly's guidance, navigation, and control department. Give those guys a raise. It's pretty good stuff. But yeah, unfortunately, the performance hit that you're taking, or the efficiency hit that you're taking from losing that second stage nozzle is not, it wasn't enough to make it. That is unfortunate, but hey, stuff happens. It happens. This weird stuff happens. Like the more we see rockets that are trying to launch more and achieve a more matured flight state, like we get kind of spoiled by Falcon 9, right? The more we see this, the more you're going to run into kind of bumps in the road. This stuff does happen. It is unfortunate, but remember, this was just a demo payload. And if math serves me left, I think Firefly has, they have 10 more missions locked in, guaranteed with Lockheed Martin for these LM-400 satellites, and then an additional 15 after that. That could be exercised if Lockheed likes the product, the launch services that Firefly is providing. So it is a bump in the road. It does stink, but you lost that at the end of the day. That's always, I mean, honestly, that shouldn't be taken lightly, but yeah, I don't think this is going to like reverb Firefly. Like this isn't an Astra, flying sideways off the pad scenario, so to speak, right? I think this is just a bump in the road with Firefly. I think they'll get it right, and I think they'll keep going from there. What do you guys think?
I mean, I think you're absolutely right. I think it is worth noting NSF provided live stream production services to Firefly for this mission, and I do want to disagree with your bit of stubby nozzle slander there, EJ. Stubby nozzle is very useful and has its place. It's a trade-off of resources, making sure that they can make as many second stages as possible with minimum resources and time, and I think stubby nozzle has a place, but definitely not rapidly unplanned stubby nozzle.
By the way, it's funny, EJ, that you mentioned that it shouldn't really be compared to Astra, because Keith Tagg says second stage without a nozzle should be compared to Astra launching sideways. I do also really quickly, we see Dawson Morgan there. I have to give them both a shout out. They handled it really well throughout the broadcast, so props to both of them. But yeah, how does this compare, do you think then? I know they said don't, but how do you think this compares, EJ, to Astra's power slide, shall we say?
I still think the power slide was really cool, to be honest with you. I think that was awesome, and that was a testament to Astra's guidance, navigation, and control department. Have the rocket blow up, fly sideways off the pad, and then still end up going up is pretty dang cool. But like with Firefly, they lost the performance from, well, this time it was from lower thrust to weight ratio. The grav loss killed that thing. But I actually said something wrong. You get better exhaust velocity with the upper stage nozzle. Without it, you don't get the exhaust velocity and the efficiency. Sorry, I said that backwards. My fault, everybody. But yeah, I don't think this is as crushing as what happened with Astra. I think that Firefly has gotten to they've gotten past max Q with Alpha a good couple of times here, and I think every five out of their 6 flights have gotten to staging, which is really good. That's, that shouldn't be underestimated how difficult that actually is to do. And yeah, I think that Firefly is going to be a little bit more protected kind of financially because they're diversified. They have other missions. Like, ironically, they are providing a modified Reaver engine for Astra for Rocket 4. Right? And they also have commercial lunar payload services contracts with the Blue Ghost missions, which were incredibly successful. So I really don't think this is kind of like a end all be all thing. I think they'll be just fine. Put another one on the pad. I mean, I'm pretty sure you could be sure what happened here from the thing, the nozzle liberating itself from the vehicle. I'm pretty sure a fault tree analysis could be pretty simple on that one, as simple as one can be for rocket science, right? And yeah, put another one out, send it. Let's go.
Yeah, exactly. Nozzle came off that bad.
There's also the new Antares rocket and the involvement there. They should be considered. So they are definitely very diversified in their business, such that obviously it's not great to see, but like they're gonna continue to move past this for sure.
Forget about the 300 series of Antares sometimes, because haven't heard much about it recently.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm hopeful we'll get some more solid updates soon. I was there for the last of the 200 series, so I'm very excited for more Antares, more rockets, more better.
Yeah, well, at least the next Cygnus will have a... Oh, wait, the next Cygnus kind of broke. Too soon?
Hey, let's drop that subject, Sawyer, okay?
That sounds like what they did with the satellite. Or with the payload, so.
I teed you up for that one, man. Come on.
I appreciate it. Oh, come on. I always appreciate that.
It was the assist. With the assist, I have to pay half a pun token now.
And boom goes the dynamite. I love it. John Ulrich asking, by the way, nozzle fall off or nozzle knocked off? D, what do you think from what we saw? It looked like it kind of had that collision there on the stage separation, and we've seen from past rockets with Firefly, it's a really tight margin on that.
It definitely feels more like it got knocked off situation than nozzle fell off, as we saw more with the Cert 2 site type situation. But I'm sure we'll continue to get more information as they investigate exactly what went down, but it definitely feels like more of it got knocked off versus someone forgot to tighten some bolts, as I saw some commenters saying.
Yeah, the bolts seem to be okay, at least. Everything else with the rocket just kind of didn't really fly. Minor detail.
No. The more and more I look at this footage, Sawyer, if you look at it on the screen right there, it looks like that first stage has a little bit of a radial out component to its burn right up until staging. So I don't know if we can just back that footage up a little bit. I know that's not like, hey, producers just do this thing out of the blue. Can you? Right? Like, yeah, okay. A little bit after this, like pretty much the T plus 2 minutes, you see a picture of the rocket ascending. That's not in the infrared spectrum, like what you see right there. And the rocket seems to be pitched up relative to its velocity. That's called a radial out component in orbital, like kind of orbital maneuvering. Radial out component is used to stretch more performance out of your first stage. There are other launch providers that do this, but. And once again, the tracks, this is the track right here that I'm talking about. See, the rocket's pitched up slightly comparatively to where it's going, comparatively to its plume, right? It looks like it's kind of nose up more towards the countdown or the count up clock over there, right? The thing is that when other providers do this, right before they get a main engine cutoff, the rocket aligns with your posigrade vector and then stages the rocket. I'm not sure that... you said we saw this in past videos. I believe it was Flight 4. We had an onboard view, and we saw the nozzle come probably within, 2 centimeter of tipping the inner stage. So I'm not sure if that's if it's the same thing as what we saw before, but it definitely seems like, that first stage burning slightly radial out and ejecting the stage not completely aligned with your prograde vector could be problematic. I'll say, like, basically the nozzle hits the inner stage on the way out, puts a crack in the nozzle extension, and then the engine goes to fire and the nozzle decides to not be a nozzle anymore. They said you could be anything, so you wanted to be free,
Yeah, that definitely could be the case. Sorry, it is quite windy up here right now. It definitely could be the case that it just did not have much room, and then that impact caused an issue that the firing later fully revealed.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, we'll have to see if they end up making any changes to that separation mechanism or the design of that first and second stage kind of interstage area. It'll be interesting to see what they have to do to make that work.
I mean, it's very interesting, Sawyer, because history doesn't repeat, but it rhymes. I can remember other launch providers in the early days of SpaceX had this same problem. And, if you guys have watched a Falcon 9 launch, I don't know if you guys have seen those. They're kind of rare nowadays.
Ooh, let's actually look at the separation from Flight 4, because we can see sort of how close the nozzle is, how much...
Yeah, this is what it's supposed to look like.
Mm-hmm. SpaceX on Falcon 9, for instance, has a push rod in the center of the inner stage that pushes up on the nozzle and makes sure the nozzle stays straight inside of the inner stage to avoid what you're about to see here. What you're about to see here. Watch how close this thing actually gets. See, once again, look at that rocket. You see it radial out. It's the radial out component. Squeeze more performance out of that first stage, and maybe it wasn't that flight, because that staging actually looked good. There was one that was during the nighttime.
I think it was Flight 2.
It may have been Flight 2. I may have been wrong. Sorry about that. I'm 0 for 2 on facts today. No.
0 for Flight 2.
Yeah. So I think it was Flight 2. You know what? You know what it really is? There's so many dang rocket launches. I can't remember all of them.
All right, here's Flight 2 on the screen now.
Yeah. It was Flight 2. Thank you, Chad. Yeah. So once again, same thing, right? Actually, that looks more. No, there it goes. Watch, look. Oh, that's absurdly close. That's what I mean. Like, it's real close. I don't know if that was on purpose or if they're supposed to do that. It could be aerodynamic perturbations from the staging altitude. There's a bunch of different things, but man, that's real close.
Yeah.
And also, we never saw the fairing ever. Like, we saw it at liftoff, and then they switched to it. They switched the camera to the front, and now this could have been video delay. It's so close, right? That's what I mean. It came about an inch, right? About an inch from really becoming bad. Like
Look at that.
See, that's really, 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 really close. We didn't really see the fairing separate either, but yeah, I'm pretty sure they tipped the interstage with the nozzle. Once again, that history doesn't repeat, but it rhymes. That's happened before. And once again, like I was saying, if you've seen a Falcon 9 launch and you watch till staging, right? They have a pneumatic push rod in the center that makes sure that the nozzle doesn't hit the interstage because it picks up on the throat of the Merlin vacuum engine. You know, I'm not saying that Firefly needs that. I'm sure they'll figure it out. There's plenty of people working there that are way smarter than me. But yeah, this does happen. That's the point that I'm trying to illustrate. It happens. You know, you figure it out. You good.
And
like I said, Firefly diversifying all over the place. Sorry about that. Firefly diversifying all over the place kind of shields them from, failures a little bit.
Yeah, I also have to give a shout out to Alex because I can never hear the word pusher anymore. I always hear the word pusher. So.
Why you gotta do him like that? He ain't even here.
The two pushers. And we love it though. That's Alex. I mean, Alex has all the facts in the back channel saying that the pusher was in fact added because they made the nozzle extension larger on V1.2 for Falcon to keep it from hitting the interstage. They put that there and so also give a little extra kick to the now heavier second stage with the subcooled prop. So.
Oh yeah, there you go.
I say it with love, Alex. I say it with love. Well, let me take a minute and hit some support here. We've had
look at Ethereal right in chat right now. KSP taught me engines can clip through the interstage shroud just fine. Uh-oh.
KSP IRL?
Oh no.
Life imitates art, D.
Also, Alex saying Ryan says capsule, and he's British, so nice. But yes, Ethereal Swordsman, thank you for the KSP IRL comparison here. It'll be fine. Matt Pippin becoming a Capcom member. Thank you, which means you can join us for the pre and post shows here on the Flame Trench in the NSF Discord. So hopefully you can join in and join us for the fun pre and post show. It's a lot more loosey-goosey, and you can also continue to tell Jack how wrong he is about bagels, although he sent a picture with some real bagels in it the other day, so I had to give him some props, ignoring his cruddy jalapeno whatever monstrosity up in the corner of the
He shared
photo.
real bagels? Is that a
yes,
first?
Yes, he did. It is. Wow. That's what I said. I said, Margaret, this is the first time that Jack has sent a picture of real bagels. Because also WB Hokey with the $20 super chat saying, hold, Jack is still getting his quote-unquote bagel. Just kidding. But he's getting closer to understanding what bagel means. Here's the infographic, by the way, on the mechanism there with the interstage and how tight that all is. I mean, EJ?
Yeah,
you're the tech guy.
I mean, that's actually, if we looked at a Falcon 9, I mean, it's what Alex was saying, that nozzle actually becomes, we're just spoiled by Falcon 9s and how much it works all the time, but the nozzle on Falcon 9 is very close to the sides. That actually is a lot more room comparatively. But I mean, there's also there's other things that come into play. It could be that radial out component, like I was saying, but it also just could be aerodynamic perturbations that weren't taken into account. Like, and once again, that's not like to say that Firefly isn't prepared, right? Like, there are always unknown unknowns when you're trying something new, and rocket science just happens to be really, really difficult to do. So it could be a bunch of different things, but Alpha's a pretty tight vehicle either way, Sawyer, right? Like it's. I mean, most rockets are jam packed. I mean, the fun fact: rockets are mostly fuel. I always tell people, you know, the less rocket you have on your rocket, and the more fuel you have on the rocket, the further you go. It's kind of a plain English way of explaining the delta V formula, but yeah, everything's pretty tight on Alpha. I don't think it's a particularly bad vehicle. The Reavers performed great. Just dial some stuff in with that second stage engine, good to go.
And I do like the description on there, how it discusses hot gas separation system. So, roasty toasty separation system, more like it, but yeah, that's some hot gas there. This was the official statement, by the way, from Firefly, saying that there was a mishap that impacted the Stage 2 Lightning engine nozzle, working with our Lockheed Martin customer, the Space Force, and FAA to conduct a thorough investigation and determine the root cause. So, I'm sure we will see them again soon. TM.
They'll be back, and in greater numbers.
They'll be back. Let me thank a few more people here. Space Doggo, thank you for becoming a Padrat member. Oh, I love you as a person, but hate your name. Ground umbilical carrier plate.
Yep.
It still stings. We were talking about it on the stream the other night about SLS, but been working Friday night for the last few months. Took off tonight because I miss Sawyer. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Also, Sawyer, my wife has a secret crush on you.
It's not a secret no more.
No, I'm flattered.
It's not a secret.
Thank you.
I
don't want to destroy any marriages, but I am single.
Hey,
Those seemed like fighting words.
No, I don't. Again, like I said, you're probably a great person. I just hate the name ground umbilical carrier plate.
Dude, look at how red Sawyer's getting. That's weird.
You steal my launches with scrubs, I steal your wife? No, we're not doing that.
I didn't think the show would get this spicy this soon. Wow.
This is normally reserved for the pre and post show. This kind of spice.
If you enjoy these types of discussions, become a member.
Oh dear.
Yeah, I see how red my cheeks are now in the preview window. Oh my god. Let me take that off the screen. Chromatic, thank you for gifting a red team membership. Compose myself.
This is what Jason Kim, who's Firefly CEO, had to say on it. He, daring greatly, today our Alpha Flight 6 rocket experienced an anomaly during second stage separation that led to a loss of our Lightning engine nozzle extension, reducing its thrust. Even more disappointing is we did not come through for our Lockheed Martin partner, and we own that. Good. That's what you should be doing. We are working closely with our Lockheed partner, stakeholders, and the FAA through the anomaly investigation and root cause and corrective action swiftly. At the end of the day, our Firefly team is resilient and consistently continues to overcome the hardest of challenges, and this is no different. We are committed to Lockheed in providing reliable Alpha launches and to our customer base and countless advocates that have already reached out with an abundance of support. Quote, in the arena, unquote.
In the arena. I do like that.
I think that's, you know, it speaks to, like, tough times speak to people's character a lot. And, you know, the CEO is the face of the company. How Jason Kim runs that company is how the company's going to be, right? And competency starts at the top. And part of being competent is owning your mistakes and taking accountability for them. And that's exactly what we see here. I like this. This is the kind of behavior that you need to conduct spaceflight. Because stuff will inevitably blow up in your face at some point. It happens. It happens to everyone. It happens to everybody. It's a numbers game. Even seasoned vets. Sawyer, right? Like look at ULA with their observation on the nozzle. It happens. So what did they do? They owned the problem and they fixed it. Right? This happens. It happens to everybody.
But ULA has a 100% success rate.
hey, it still made it into space. And if this one made it into space, I'd dang sure call it a success. But, that nozzle.
That is true. And by the way,
Kind
this
of need that.
This is the FAA's statement in regards to this, which, as we expected, the FAA is requiring Firefly to conduct a mishap investigation. So they will be involved in every step of it and must approve Firefly's final report, including corrective actions. So it is worth noting, as is the case with Starship and all of the other ones, the private company is the one that will be doing the investigation, that will find the root cause, and that will propose the corrective actions that need to be done. Once they do that, they will then pass it off to the FAA, who will either sign off on it or say no, which is very unlikely that they will say no to any of those. So just worth noting the process there. And then a very interesting question that just popped up from Mighty Unlikely. Does Lockheed Martin still pay for this flight, or is that money info private? Is there space and all the companies that launch basically have their version of space insurance on it, right?
Yeah, so there are multiple different types of insurance that companies can get. So if you've made a satellite and you want it launched into space, you can get insurance specifically for the launch portion of the mission. You can get insurance for the operation of the satellite in space. So I don't think we have any detailed understanding of the exact financial agreements in place. However, it's highly plausible that there was some sort of insurance here. Obviously, everyone knows that a successful outcome isn't guaranteed, so they'll have insurance, they'll have their backup plans, and they will come away with a good outcome in the end. Not, like they have all these contingency plans for any stage of flight in general. Not sure again of the specifics for this mission.
Exactly. Yeah, we never really get actual numbers, but there are companies out there that is solely what they do. I mean, we've seen it in action before, Amos 6, but you don't get to hear about it very often.
I mean, it's not like Lockheed Martin goes down to the launch services store and buys like 25 launches. Oh yeah, I will take 25 rocket launches, please. Every launch every launch contract is just that. It's a contract. Contractual sales like this are a form of complex sales where, there's really no, unless the contract says there's really no fixed price. There's no like insurance premium. It's not like a public rate. Everything is done behind closed doors because it's all a la carte. Like it's a contractual thing. So the stipulations of the contract framework can change. Even if a provider is using a similar launch vehicle, like a geostationary satellite launching on Falcon is going to have different contractual obligations than NASA with the Dragon mission, right? The SpaceX providing a service for NASA with Dragon 2 going to the space station. Even though it's the same rocket, there's no way that contract structuring looks similar. There's no way. It's a la carte every time.
All I can think of is like Rick from Pawn Stars going, best I can do is $20.
Yeah, there's not really a lot of rocket launches around. They're kind of rare. It's not really much demand. The best I can do is $20 per kilogram to low Earth orbit. Yeah. Hey, let me talk to my rocket guy. I'll get him down here. He knows a lot more about this than me. Sorry, too far. All right, cool.
No, you're also pulling off the Rick look right now too. So.
Oh yeah. Are you calling me out? But all right.
Maybe. Chromatic, thank you for gifting a Red Team membership. Ben Creasy, I'm super impressed Firefly continued to burn despite the RUD. I mean, that's the winner right there, is the fact that the rocket kept trying. It kept going pretty well after that, so props to the team that did work on it.
It maintained good control. Like,
yeah.
It wasn't in a good orientation, and it regained control and continued to burn, continued to gain speed and all that, and it wasn't enough, but it shows some very, very impressive engineering.
Exactly. And I wouldn't be surprised if you want to now retract your gifted sub, but ground umbilical carrier plate gifting a red team membership. So thank you very much for that. And apologies to you, but genuinely thank you for being a part of the community and hope you know it's all in fun. Speaking of things that are fun,
I think he knows you're kidding, man.
I hope he does. You never know these. I want to make sure people know that.
Gup's been around for a good while. I'm pretty sure he knows us.
Yeah. Not joking about the single part though. Hit me up. Anyway, not his wife.
Why you gotta go and make it weird again, dude?
You really want to get weird? Let's talk NASA budgets. How about that? Would you rather talk about my dating life or NASA budget? Actually, that's a terrible question. Let's ignore it.
Which one of these is a sadder thing to talk about?
Sorry, I'll wingman for you if you want. Like,
ouch, D.
Damn.
All right, let's get into it. EJ, the so-called skinny budget is out, and yeah, this is going to be a fun topic.
Oh, please don't hate me. Please don't hate me. Okay, so the White House has a proposed budget for NASA. It's a little different, to say the least. There's some parts of it that I honestly don't mind, but other parts I'm like, it's probably not a good thing. You probably shouldn't do that. But so amongst other things, it calls for SLS to basically be phased out after 3 flights. So after Artemis 3, rely on a commercial venture, which is weird. And because of that, no gateway, because it's not needed. There are some budget increases. There, $647 million will be allocated to human exploration operations. So there's just straight human space exploration, which includes Mars focused programs. But on the science side, there's a $2.2 billion cut and cancels low priority programs such as like Mars sample return. Mission support budget aims to cut $1.1 billion with better IT services, NASA Center and operations. On Earth science, low priority climate monitoring systems are being canceled and restructuring to the Landsat Next mission. Legacy human exploration systems, SLS phased out until after Artemis 3, and also eliminates Gateway, which we talked about already. Space technology budget would cancel failed space propulsion projects and move these to the private sector. Oh, it's getting tough to read. On the ISS side of things, the budget would reduce science and crew hours on the space station. The cutoff year for the ISS remains at 2030. Okay. Surprised to be sure, but a welcome one. And as for STEM engagement, NASA cuts down STEM programs to inspire with its programs and reduce STEM study funding. Okay. Next to all this, the funding for the National Science Foundation is being cut in basically every field, especially in Earth observation and climate change. So, okay, that's a lot. That's a lot of stuff. Okay, guys, I'm going to gather my thoughts here.
He's cooking.
Okay. Hear me out. Look, I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat it. A lot of this stuff is not the best. It's not great. I particularly don't agree with phasing out SLS. I don't think that's a good idea. Until there's a commercial analog that does the same thing, I don't think that's wise. And I don't think hedging your bets on a vehicle that's nowhere near human rating, like Starship, even though Starship will be at some point. I've never bet against SpaceX, right? I don't think we should. I think there should be overlap. We shouldn't allow ourselves a stopgap in lunar exploration capability. I don't think that's a good idea at all. I think that's a very bad idea. And to sit here and suggest that SLS has a commercial analog right now is pretty funny to me, because it demonstrates a fundamental misunderstanding of how Delta V works. But whatever, personal opinion. I do like $647 million being allotted for a Mars-focused program for human exploration. That's pretty cool. 647 isn't a lot, but generally at the start of a new program like this, you're not going to see like $5 billion to Mars exploration. Costs ramp up over time, especially as you get further into your development phase. That's what this book says. This book is free, by the way, on NASA's website, the Systems Engineering Handbook. It's also upside down. You know what? We'll just keep it upside down. I'll roll with it. Screw it. I'll roll with it. It's fine. I read it like this. It made it even more difficult than it already was. Anyway, so that's not necessarily a bad thing. Like more money for human exploration. What this Mars focused program is, I don't know. Are we relying on Starship here? What's going to get us to Mars with people? I think it's a very interesting thing there. But yeah, going over to the science stuff, I'm not sure I'm okay with all that, except for Mars Sample Return. I think Mars Sample Return is a fiasco, and it deserved to be canceled like 4 years ago. Personal opinion. Gateway, yeah, I think there's better ways to do Gateway than the way that we chose. You know, but yeah, I would say that on the whole, there's probably not. There's some good here, but it really kind of depends on until we get an ironed out plan. Now, keep in mind for the people that are dooming hard right now, I can see that chat going. I can see Twitch and YouTube chats going ding, 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 ding with people, saying what they got to say. I get it. Some people are going to hate this. Some people aren't. Remember, it's a proposal. Okay. This is all subject to change. This isn't the end all be all gospel of what NASA is going to do. It does certainly show what the executive branch wants to do. But remember, that's got to go through Congress, and it's always a negotiation. But yeah, there's, I don't know. I do like more money for human exploration, but yeah, Sawyer, I'd be remiss in saying that gutting that much science is a good idea. Also, like, why are you gutting, like, say you're gutting like $2 billion from science. You're gutting $2 billion from science and adding $650 million to human exploration. What are we do? So we're just taking away money?
It is worth noting in this proposal that the only portion of NASA's budget that would get an increase is the human space exploration point as it is currently written. Again, as you pointed out, now Congress gets to do their bidding and their fighting, especially the places where they would lose a lot of jobs. A lot of the major providers in the South especially would seem to be impacted. They're probably going to fight to get more jobs continued in their constituencies. So I think the cuts will end up being less, but we have to, of course, go off of the current plan right now with all of our comments. There's so many things in here that kind of bug me, and a lot of it is just down to the wording. Of course, the big one for me personally is the whole STEM education side of things. That's the Office of Science, Technology, Engineering, Mathematics Engagement. Their wording on that is that NASA's primary role is space exploration and, similar to prior generations that were inspired by the Apollo lunar landings, NASA will inspire the next generation of explorers through exciting, ambitious space missions, not through subsidizing woke STEM programming and research that prioritizes some groups of students over others that have led to minimal impact on the aerospace workforce. As someone who's worked in STEM for over a decade, I completely disagree with that. Also, the point there of inspired by the Apollo lunar landings. Yeah, we had a lot of Saturn V launches going on. We had the Gemini program. We had the Saturn program. What do we have now? SLS, which, oh, wait, we're going to give it 2 more flights, and that's it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, man. Like, you can't make the argument that STEM is, oh yeah, the best way to inspire, we're going to gut STEM because the best way to inspire people is launching things. Oh, just kidding. We're not going to launch this a lot. That's a little, wait, you're going to do what? Those are...
Yeah, things like the Webb Space Telescope that you see on there. I mean, there's cuts to that. All of the things that are used to study the climate here on Earth, which is a huge part of NASA that most people don't realize. A lot of that's getting cut. But for me, it's just, how can you say we're going to encourage the next generation and really get them going by focusing on Mars and beating China when you're canceling all the things that actually get people excited about then going on to Mars and beating China?
Yeah, I just want to say how awful I find all of this, frankly. Like, there was one marginal increase, and so that cut to OSTEM, that was a $143 million cut, and I believe last year's budget was $143 million. So that is a complete cut to the Office of Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics engagement, which, I mean, there are grants to colleges. That's how so many people that are studying to get into this field, they get these opportunities to explore new research, all these sorts of things. They're completely cutting, the plan at least is completely cutting the initiatives for green aviation. They're cutting, like, oh, Siri heard me say that apparently. They're
What did Siri think?
they're cutting so many valuable programs, and it's not like they're trying to maintain research. The climate research that is being done is just being needlessly cut. So much of the research that we do is through these partnerships with PhDs and graduate programs, through things like OSTEMs and university partnerships, and like, it's absolutely awful to see that being cut back. There are so many opportunities that up to this point NASA has been able to provide. They have internships where they're bringing high schoolers going into college very early to learn on the job. As I'm a little bit frustrated, if you can't tell, about this budget. I think Gateway getting cut at some point, somewhat predictable. We've seen the writing on the wall for SLS. We don't like it. Obviously, I want to see more SLS flights. To some extent, okay. Great, let's do more Mars funding. But if we have our orbiting laboratory, and they're wanting to cut research there, like that, I don't see how any of this is beneficial to us as a population at all. It seems like a very politically motivated vendetta in a lot of ways.
By the way, I just want to give you a quick shout out to our chat moderators who are doing amazing work right now, because this is a spicy topic, to say the least. So,
yeah,
I mean,
our
you
mods
are
are the
on
best.
the same page with the STEM side, D, that's for sure. You can't get people excited about going on to the moon and Mars if you're not telling people about what we're doing to get to the moon and Mars. The research being done on the ISS, which that's another thing. They're talking about cutting down the number of crew, cutting down the number of missions that will be sent up to it with resupply and things like that to lead up to the 2030 deorbit. But here's an interesting thought. Obviously, we seem to be on the same side of this, but there's a really good point on the other side of things. And EJ, I'm going to throw this one to you. Kilmore is saying NASA does not need to be doing climate change and earth sciences. There are other agencies that already cover that. And I wonder what your response is to that.
I'm sorry, are those agencies...
Aren't
those agencies also being cut? Like, NASA is set up to do so much of this research. NASA it has all these partners in existence, and they're cutting all of this research. And I hope that there is pushback. I hope that there is heavy pushback in Congress against this proposal.
Yeah, I mean...
Guys?
Yeah, go ahead, EJ.
I don't... Sorry, just repeat that just to make sure I heard it right. What was that last question?
It said NASA does not need to be doing climate change and earth sciences. There are other agencies that already cover that. That was their comment in regards to the budget.
Yeah, there's a possibility that that's okay. I mean, but Dee brings up a good point. Like, so, okay, you want NOAA? You want to use NOAA for climate monitoring and meteorological observation and stuff. That's fine. So if what NOAA's doing right now is enough, then yeah, I guess that makes sense. But my biggest problems, just kind of turning the page a little bit. My biggest problems with this is that there doesn't seem to be stopgaps. Either that, or we're not looking deep enough. Like, I kind of want to know, like, what's the plan here? You don't want STEM in there because NASA should be launching things, but you don't want NASA launching things. You're like, what's the goal here? I'd be kind of curious to dig deeper. Like, if they're gonna swing around and keep expand programs in NOAA, and yeah, I don't mind that going away out of NASA. Like, I really do think NASA is at its best when it's pushing the boundary of human spaceflight. Science missions are great and they're amazing for outreach, guys, but nothing inspired people like the Apollo program, and that's the straight up truth. Like, I'm sorry, the Apollo program inspired way more people than James Webb nowadays. You can say whatever you want, but it's the dang truth. The Apollo program inspired an entire generation, and people nowadays, most people, like, the James Webb Space Telescope is a household name, right? It's not, I don't think it's that. Now, scientifically, it is a very significant thing, and that's important to keep that in mind. But I think in terms of, like, outreach and stuff, you're not going to get the outreach from the James Webb launch that you did from, like, sending people to the moon 6 times, So, like, I think there is a component of truth to that, and there's a component of truth to, getting climate science out of NASA. Like, if NOAA wants to do it, that's fine, but you got to fund NOAA to do it. If you don't want NASA to do STEM programs, that's fine, but your case point for cutting the STEM program is launching more, and you don't want to launch more. So what's the game plan here? What are we supposed to be doing here? Like, my mind is going back to what Rook was saying in his congressional testimony. Like, he wants to start a new golden age of space exploration. I'm genuinely curious what that means. Just putting it out there.
By the way, I do want to address your comments there in regards to NOAA. Per the same skinny budget for NOAA, operations, research, and grants is cutting $1.3 billion from that, saying the budget terminates a variety of climate-dominated research, data, and grant programs which are not aligned with the administration policy ending Green New Deal initiatives. For example, NOAA's educational grant programs have consistently funded efforts to radicalize students against markets and spread environmental alarm. That is their quote-unquote for the NOAA side of the Earth Sciences part.
Can you say that one more time, dude? My brain went, what? Wait, what? What did you just say? Just repeat that for the record.
The budget terminates a variety of climate-dominated research, data, and grant programs which are not aligned with the administration policy-ending Green New Deal initiatives. For example, NOAA's educational grant programs have consistently funded efforts to radicalize students against markets and spread environmental alarm. It also goes on to say funded such organizations, the Ocean Conservatory and One Cool Earth, that apparently have pushed agendas harmful to America's fishing industries.
You know what? I'm going to stay in my lane here and say that I just don't really know enough about that to say if that's a good thing or a bad thing. It sounds bad, but yeah, I'm probably going to weigh more on the line of, like, bad. But I think it's important with this proposal. Like, and guys know I'm not trying to say that researching climate science is a bad thing. Please do not twist my words, for the love of Jeb. All right, like, I'm more interested with this proposal. Like, what's your plan here? Like, what's the plan? Like, these goals weren't thought out of the blue, right? Unless somebody has an axe to grind, in which case I really don't like people that play political football with NASA. It's, proven historically to give very poor results. SOS. I see this, I'm like, wow, yeah, this is a little different. This is kind of uncool. What's the game plan here? Like, you want to gut all this science because you don't like science or whatever, or you think it's bloat or something? Like, what are we talking about here? So, okay, if that's the case, you're going to cut all these science programs that you think are needed, but you want to champion human explorations in spaceflight, but you don't want to do human exploration in spaceflight.
Yeah, That's the thing.
What?
Again, the point that was made.
What?
Of other places can take up the slack, go for it. But it doesn't sound like that's the case. But I will stay with my lane because I do know the NASA side of things, not as much the NOAA side of things. But that is the exact paragraph that I was reading from the skinny budget, so to speak, that was released.
No, I got you. And once again, guys, don't ring the alarm bells here. This is a proposal. Proposals usually don't last. It's like I said last time, and I'm playing devil's advocate here, but everything is a negotiation. It's a negotiation between what the executive wants NASA to do and how much money Congress wants to give NASA. It's always been a negotiation. It's been like that since the Apollo program. Just remember, this isn't the end-all, be-all. This isn't the gung-ho thing. There's people in Congress that pretty much won't allow this to happen, no matter where they fall on the political spectrum. Because at the end of the day, nobody wants nobody wants to be the guy that let a NASA design center get, decommissioned in their congressional district. That's not going to happen. No one, the guy that's I don't, forgive me, I don't know the person's name off the top of my head, but the representative that represents Huntsville is not going to be like, oh yeah, just cancel everything that Marshall is doing right now. We don't need that. That's fine. That's fine. That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. On the flip side of that, NASA Armstrong out in California, they're not going to just be like, oh yeah, just, green aviation. Yeah, we don't need that. That's just all the money that's flowing into my district. You know what? You're right. We don't need that no more. Like, there's no way that that's going to happen. Just remember, it's a proposal. Don't freak out. Yeah. Now, once again, there are some things in this proposal that are a little like, you're going to do what? Come again? Huh? But keep in mind, it's just a proposal. Just a proposal. Relax. I think we'll be okay, I hope. Kevin?
Please.
Hang on. For those who are wondering what we're looking at and doing, that is the voice
Kevin
of God in our ears,
right
hopefully in yours.
Kevin,
Kevin Michael
right
Reed will be coming back with his commentary shortly. That's
okay, I think I fixed it. Okay, here we go. Sorry. All right, so I was just going through the rest of the document, and there is a table later in the document that says proposed 2026 discretionary budget request by discretionary category. And I'm seeing some people talk in our back channel and in chat about the fact that the defense budget has increased, and that's actually not the case. You could. This is the overall between comparing 2025 to the 2026 proposed budget. I mean, the bottom line is that there is a cut across the board. Yeah, go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
I see you, EJ.
No, I was waving at Elizabeth in chat with the $100 super chat.
I mean, like there are additions and subtractions in all areas, but overall across the board there is a cut, a 7.6% cut.
So am I reading this wrong, that the enacted 2025 and the request for 2026 for defense under base discretionary is the same? Then there's a 22% cut for non-defense. Then there's an increase under the base discretionary, including reconciliation resources. That increases. Non-defense decreases. The way I could be misreading this, but it seems like overall it's a decrease slightly, but that seems like a large increase in defense. I still have a lot more I also want to say about STEM and the value NASA STEM programs have when we get back to that, though.
Yeah. The one thing that I feel like we have to address that we haven't yet, Heather Mike saying in Jared's interview, the chairman clearly said it was in U.S. law that there would be a permanent outpost on the moon. How is that going to happen without a STEM program, etc.? We have to talk about Jared and all of this. While he has not yet been confirmed, he's moved on at least one step closer to being confirmed. he has said that he is very pro-science on this, and this is the current proposal. What are our thoughts on what Jared might be inheriting and what he may or may not be able to do as they kind of haggle this budget going forward?
I think he's going to support whatever the administration puts through, like, and whether that is as pro-science as we have seen him be in the past or not. I think too much speculation on what he might do is unwise.
EJ, you were going to say the same thing? What were you going to say?
Okay, so it very much seems like Rook, with his testimony, was very much about leveraging the commercial markets, right? That's not necessarily a bad thing, but I think NASA's incessant drive to commercialize everything just because it's cheaper will be our undoing. That's how you usually end up with less capability. Like, look at NASA over the past 15 years. I think that's a pretty good case in point. Now, that's not to say that commercializing certain parts of the space program is bad. Commercial Crew has arguably been very successful. But the only reason Commercial Crew is successful is because we have a space station for Commercial Crew to go to. A space station that NASA funded and built and got up and running to basically give an anchor point in space to allow a low Earth orbit economy to, particularly with crew, like in terms of crew, maybe Dragon, maybe not Starliner yet. They'll get there, I guess, to develop. You can't just commercialize every single thing. Be like, oh, it's going to save us money. No, that's not. Eventually, you're going to get to a point where the commercial market just financially doesn't make sense for the commercial market to build a vehicle that NASA is going to ultimately need. And this is why I think that getting rid of SLS after 3 flights is ridiculous. There's going to be no analog for that. And guys, if there's any SpaceX fanboys out there, guys, I'm a SpaceX fanboy too, but you can't look at me with a straight face and say Starship's going to fly people in the next couple of years. I really don't think that's possible. Even with SpaceX's rapid iteration, they're building a complicated vehicle by their own admission. Now, SpaceX will get it done. I have no doubt in my mind. This is not a detractor or a defamatory statement towards SpaceX. I love them. And nor should they be hindered by NASA to slow down. So NASA should achieve be the same, right? But to suggest that, by Artemis 3, which should be like 2027, 2028, maybe, that Starship is going to be an analog to move people to deep space is a little bit counting your chickens before they hatch. That's how you get stopgaps in space. That's exactly how this has happened in the past. Look at going from Apollo to the space shuttle. Look at going from the space shuttle to Commercial Crew. You shouldn't count your chickens before they hatch. They axed the space shuttle and Constellation and said, we'll put it to commercial. Commercial will do it. Commercial will bear the brunt of that. And then we couldn't launch people into space for 9 years from American soil. I really think the best time to cancel SLS is when Starship has achieved parity with SLS, i.e. if Starship can launch end-to-end people to the moon and back, right? Or at least a rectilinear halo orbit if we're looking for an analog with SLS, right? Then get rid of SLS. But to suggest that Starship is going to completely replace SLS in the next couple of years is no. That's where Rook wants to leverage commercial science. He wants to leverage, the commercial market for crazy scientific endeavors. I don't necessarily have a problem with that, but there needs to be an anchor component, just like there was an anchor component for the ISS to allow Commercial Crew to work. Without NASA being kind of quote unquote an anchor tenant, right? To with outposts in space, you're subjecting the whims of our space exploration to a commercial market. And whether you like commercial markets or not, commercial markets, they undoubtedly have their ebbs and flows. Commercial markets grow, they retract, they grow, they retract. It's elastic. That happens. Do we really want to subject our space program to that, particularly with human spaceflight? I'm not sure that's wise. I really don't think so. But I don't know, chat. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I've been watching that go through. I do want to take a second to thank some people here before it gets too late into those. WB Hokey, props to the mods. Keep up the good work. Don't know if they get any of this, but at least get them some cheesecake one day with the $50 super chat. Thank you so much for the generosity. We do love our mods in chat. They do fantastic work, especially today. And Elizabeth, as you were talking about earlier, Elizabeth Hopner with a $100 super chat. No message, but beyond appreciated. Thank you so much. We can't do what we do without support from you. We are not government funded. We are not associated with NASA, so we don't get any of this budget. We can only do what we do with support from all of our viewers. So thank you so much for that. And I did say someone comment that maybe that money should go directly to NASA instead to help their budget.
Imagine
let's
what
go.
we would do with a $1.6 trillion budget.
I think that's too much money for spaceflight, Kevin, if you really want my honest opinion.
No, I'm saying NSF.
For NSF. Kevin would have more cameras at least.
I would have lots of cameras everywhere.
I think the point still stands, dude. What are we going to do with $1 trillion?
I don't know.
We can find a
Maybe,
way.
just
No,
maybe.
I think. Let's be honest here. We would be able to. We would be able to spend it. We would be hosting this, not just from flame trenches, but from flame trenches on the moon.
Yes, we would have NSF Sat 1 and 2 and 3.
NSF sad. We'd have our own rockets.
Oh yeah.
And the NSF station, yeah.
Yeah.
And
We'll do
maybe,
flame
just
trench from our
maybe,
own station.
Maybe, just maybe, we'd be able to post a feature video each week.
I doubt that. By the way, I stand corrected. There was a $113 billion increase in the defense budget in this proposal.
By the way, speaking of feature videos, if you haven't seen our latest one about the other stranded astronauts you may not have heard about, I highly recommend it. We know about Butch and Sunny, but there was a whole bunch of others aboard the ISS, going all the way back to Salyut. Someone who got bumped because of a movie crew, a crew that got so angry that they got stuck up there that they literally cut off communications with the ground for a couple days. So, highly recommend that.
Can I go back and talk about one more thing with the STEM stuff?
Yeah, and then I've got a couple more super chats to hit about this, but go ahead, D.
All right. So, like, some of the outreach that they do is to even students in middle and high school. And so we want to talk about the value of inspiring interest in space. Like, a general interest in space is, of course, valuable, but some of their programs are hands-on learning programs where these students can start off in middle school learning things like robotics, and by the time they're out of high school, they are already set up with internships, and they are in the industry at that point. So if we're wanting to inspire another generation, these STEM programs that NASA has are already a great way to do that. And if you want to criticize or say that there are more efficient ways to do it, you don't cut it by 100%. You don't do 100% cut of these sorts of things. Yes, a direct reference, as Kevin is saying in the back channel. I am a mentor for an FRC team, the pink team that is sponsored by NASA, and it's such a great opportunity for all of these students to get experience working with, I mean, really complex systems, learning programming, learning mechanical, doing analysis, all that sort of stuff. And it's just really disappointing to see this sort of stuff.
Hey, D, I got a question, and I'm not trying to rock the boat. Just hear me out. What's NASA's median age? Do you know?
Off the top of my head, no.
So, okay, the median age at NASA is about 45. I think it's somewhere between 45 and 50. I think it's 45, 46, somewhere in there. Do you think that, you know, somebody who doesn't know too much about spaceflight is going to look at that and say, well, arguably these STEM programs aren't working because we're not attracting young talent at NASA? The median age is 45. these STEM programs are targeted at kids, and those kids are not going to use these NASA STEM programs to work at NASA. They're going to use these STEM programs to go into the commercial market, in which case, why would you fund this? Do you think that's what's going on? I'm just racking my brain. It's a little bit of a humdinger question, right?
Yeah. Can we actually go back? Is there any chance we can go back to that document that outlined the specific stuff within NASA, where the funding was?
Yeah, the
Yeah,
student
give me
budget.
1 second.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kevin.
Moldy, you're 26 and excited to be back at NASA. Well, yeah, of course. I'm not saying that there aren't young people that want to work at NASA. I'm saying that the majority of young people that are inspired by STEM are not going to work for NASA. They're going to work for a private company. You said that yourself.
So can you scroll down there? There was
To the OSTEM part?
yes to the OSTEM part, because that is the Office of Science, Technology, Engineering, Mathematics. The cut would be 143 million, which that Office of STEM Engagement is where they offer a ton of these, literally what are called OSTEM internships for different projects. And so what those projects are can vary a ton, but there's so much value in all these. And yeah, Kevin had that really good point that I should disclaim that I do mentor with that one of the teams with the robotics team there, but I just don't think this level of cut is defensible. Like you're not going to get new people to work at NASA if you aren't funding the ways for them to get started and building that interest from a young age. You have those internships, then people can get started, and then from their internships move into careers. And you're not going to bring new people in if you're not supporting that.
Yeah. I do want to hit a couple of things here from Roseanne DeVasto. She sent a bunch of super chats here. First off, $20 super chat saying STEM is priceless, which I agree. I mean, that's how we get people inspired now. Yeah, I know we didn't have STEM programs for a while. For a while, it was never officially called STEM, but those outreach programs always existed. How many kids out there would write letters to NASA and they would send back all of these postcards and pictures and diagrams for the upcoming Gemini and Apollo missions as a kid in the 60s? You don't think that's outreach? That absolutely is. Instead of, kids having to write to NASA to get inspired, it's nice that there are programs out there that NASA is a part of that helps to get these kids inspired. So they're not the ones having to reach out, but there's other ways that are closer to home for them to be able to get involved and get interested. And here's a little way to lighten things up a little bit. Here's Jake. Also going on to say, it won't be long before federal defunding STEM and federal support for education will bite our kids in the proverbial butt. Yeah. But also Roseanne with a really good question here. If we're talking about getting rid of SLS and Orion basically after Flight 3, D, I think there's a big giant structure that's being built right behind you, isn't there? Mobile Launcher 2 that might not
If you
really
actually go full screen on my camera, yeah, you should be able to see it.
Oh, I do.
Right there. You can see our camera in the way just a little bit. But yeah, ML2 is here under construction, and we've been seeing it grow. I mean, it's been gaining height a lot more rapidly recently as they've been adding the tower sections.
Yeah, they just added Section 7 within the last couple weeks. So Roseanne's asking, how do we get to the moon? EJ, what do you think? How do we now get to the moon? I know the push is going to be commercial like it says in there, but who, how,
With this, I'll admit I have questions. You're gonna. So the plan, from what I can tell from this, seems to be that they're going to get to the moon with SLS and then switch to a commercial alternative. What commercial alternative are we using here? Once again, my entire argument regarding SLS with 3 flights being ridiculous is that where's your analog? People can sit out there and you can spout, oh, SLS is too expensive, SLS is this, SLS is that. Okay, it's too expensive. Compared to what? Compared to what? What, the other moon rocket that we have? We don't have that. Yes, Starship will probably get to that point at some point, and you'd be crazy to think that SpaceX won't get those resonant problems figured out with the ship. They absolutely will. But remember, we're talking about a stopgap here. I think the whole argument is here is that eventually the commercial program will eclipse NASA's capability completely. I mean, arguably, they already have to an extent. But there are some technologies where they haven't. And getting people beyond low Earth orbit is one of those technologies. Since when can we use budgets can we predict the future and make a budget reflect on a prediction of the future that hasn't happened yet? There's a lot of unknown unknowns with spaceflight. Are we going to be absolutely sure that after 3 SLS missions, Starship is going to take the reins over, or some other commercial analog? What else? What other companies are building super heavy launch vehicles? Blue? Are they going to do it? What are we talking about here? There's no analog, and until we have an analog that's up and running and flying, getting rid of SLS is crazy.
I mean, I guess the option would be Blue Origin, maybe, with New Glenn, if they modify that to be able to work with
Where's your
Orion?
capsule? Maybe if you want to make it work with Orion, I wouldn't have a problem with that. But I would make the argument there that if you're going to human rate New Glenn, use SLS for uncrewed cargo and ramp up the program, and SLS is your proverbial Ares 5 and New Glenn is your proverbial Ares 1. You can make a much more sustainable, coupled with Blue Origin's SLD refueling capabilities, you can make a much more sustainable lunar exploration program that could eventually scale to go to Mars. And then we get 2 programs for the price of 1. We get Starship doing its thing going to Mars, and we get Blue with New Glenn, Lockheed with Orion, and NASA with SLS being able to have a sustainable lunar program. They're talking about, oh, let's beat China. You want to know how to do that? You've got to outpace them. It's not just about getting back to the moon. It's about getting back there and staying there by NASA's own admission. I'm not 100% sure how 3 SLS flights is going to do that. You're inviting a stopgap. You're inviting a gap between Apollo-Soyuz test project and STS-1. You're inviting a gap between STS-135 and DM-2. That's all this is doing. You can't predict the future. Once again, until SLS has a commercial analog that can do exactly what it can do with human rating certifications, it's idiotic to say that we're only going to need this thing 3 times. Not to mention the bill that you footed for the development for this thing. You have a super heavy launch vehicle. We have super heavy launch vehicle capability. First time in a half century. Let's use it, please. Please. Please.
Yeah. And the other thing that was going through my mind, too, is when it came to contracts for the Artemis program, the Artemis 3 and 4 landers went to SpaceX. Artemis 5 went to Blue Origin. So there's a whole other contract now that's being thrown out the window. Both SpaceX and Blue are kind of getting shafted on that end of things of, hey, we had 2 lunar landers that we're preparing to build for crew for Artemis, and that's not happening. So are they still getting paid for those contracts? Are those getting thrown out? And Todd Harris here with the $20 super chat adding to it saying, getting rid of Gateway shafts Blue Origin. Blue Moon is optimized to work with Gateway. So what does that mean for companies like SpaceX and Blue Origin now?
They're definitely going to go to their representatives with a big wad of cash and say, don't do this, I would think. Don't you?
I would think they have to. I mean, I get Gateway. We kind of all known that's been on the chopping block. Heck, 2 of their 2 of the modules are too heavy for the launch vehicle they originally planned for. So we kind of knew Gateway was in trouble. I get that. But the whole point of getting humans back to the moon and onto Mars, you want to support that. But you're cutting the program that the more you fly it, the cheaper it would eventually get. You have contracts all the way out through Artemis 5 to make this happen, and you're cutting it at the first lunar landing. And that would be like getting to Apollo 11 and saying, okay, we're done. We're good. We'll let other
the shuttle
people
will do
handle
it. Yeah, the shuttle will do it. It's fine.
Yeah.
Right? Ridiculous.
How would
Ridiculous.
that have gone?
Yeah, exactly. You know how that would have gone? The Russians probably would have been like, oh, okay, how about we go?
Then you
No,
get
they
For All
only did it
Mankind
once.
seasons 1 and 2.
Yeah, right. And now I know what people are going to say, like, oh yeah, that's a good idea. Space races are arguably very bad historically for long-term exploration goals. Space races do push the boundaries, right? Space racing between nations. Of course, I'm using the U.S. and the Soviets as my data set here, which is, I know one point does not correlate a data set. I understand that, but arguably, doing a space race, yeah, it got us Apollo, and that's amazing. The biggest mistake that we did is thinking that the race was over. The thing about a space race that it's right in the name. Races usually end.
Yeah.
Something
also,
to think about.
Michael Thompson with a good point. What about agreements with other governments? We have the whole Artemis Accords. So what does that mean for that? I mean, there's a lot to consider with that too. This is a multinational partnership that was all working on this. You had the European upper stage for SLS2. What happens to that? I mean, Europe and all of those don't really get a say in the U.S. budget as much as, say, a private company would, but it's just worth noting that.
I mean, you're arguably basically subverting the entire Artemis Accords doing something like this. I mean, and I don't know if that's how you want to play it, that's how you want to play it, but okay.
Yeah. And by the way, I know it's exploration upper stage, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, Sawyer, regarding Gateway, I think that getting rid of Gateway is not the worst idea. I arguably do not think Gateway is useful in any way, shape, or form, except for to do scientific research out there, out beyond low Earth orbit. That's great. That's all fine and dandy. There are they pretty much chose the most complicated way to do it. Even if you went with the original way that Gateway was supposed to be planned, like with SLS missions, it being Gateway components riding in the universal stage adapter on top of the EUS. Even if you chose to do that way, the whole point of Gateway is to do BLEO research, right? And then be prototyped as a transfer vehicle. Look, guys, unless we get serious about generating nuclear power or fusion or whatever, some type of power source in space that's not fuel cells and solar panels, solar electric propulsion, like what's on the power and propulsion element of the Gateway, is getting you nowhere near Mars. Nowhere near it. That's a pipe dream. All right, there's no way that's going to happen. That's just physics. Now, solar electric propulsion in space using ion thrusters is scalable, but it's only scalable to what your power source is. We only have solar panels driving the power source for this thing. So what is Gateway supposed to be? A prototype transfer vehicle to go to Mars? You're not getting anywhere near Mars with that thing. Stop kidding yourself, right? I don't mind getting rid of Gateway in its current form, but having something like Gateway might not necessarily be a bad idea. How about, I don't know, we take SLS with that EUS, right? Take the universal stage adapter, convert it into a dry workshop, Skylab style, right? And send that to a rectilinear halo orbit. The EUS already has maneuvering equipment built into it. It already has RCS. Orion can dock if you put a station module on the front of that. That arguably does everything that Gateway does. Heck, you could put electric propulsion on your EUS if you really want to. The LOX tank is inside of an interstage. You wouldn't have to worry about the solar electric thrusters getting messed up. You could put rollout solar arrays on the universal stage adapter. This would arguably work a lot better and not have to worry about some crazy complicated thing where you have to assemble this thing out in rectilinear halo orbit. One launch and it's there. And you still maintain your European partnerships, and it solves everything to be able to eventually turn the EUS into a transfer vehicle and do crewed Martian and Venusian flybys like what the Apollo program wanted to do. That right there is much more comprehensive than whatever the heck we're trying to do with that thing right now. You think the Halo and PPE is a Mars transfer vehicle? Not you guys. Like, do they really think that that's the case? That's not the case. You ain't getting nowhere with that thing.
Yeah. I do want to hit a couple things of support here before we move on real quick. Ethereal Swordsman, thank you for the super chat. An authoritarian government gets heavy benefit from ensuring the population's undereducated. Climate change denial is a big part of this admin too. Roseanne Devasto, thank you for upgrading to Capcom member. Hopefully we will see you for the continued spice in the pre and post shows for NSF Discord members. And Dimez saying, I'm Team EJ on this and will be hitting the emails and printed letters tonight for fixing SLS, not cutting it. So.
Oh, geez. I hope I didn't rock the boat too hard.
Speaking of fixing things, Ship 35 might need some fixing after a static fire attempt last night that looked a little on the rough side. Was that a smooth enough transition?
No, that was pretty good.
Cool. I know a lot
good.
of you are here for this, so let's get into Ship 35. So last night, they conducted what looked like a 6-engine static fire. The night before, they had completed a single-engine version. It happened just 30 seconds after the Falcon 9 launch last night, which you could have watched live right here on NSF. As they were getting towards the end there was a very bright flash, and it looked like there was some more flames kind of around the side of the vehicle. Something just didn't look quite right. So we know that first engine test was one that was meant to simulate an in-flight orbit change, an in-flight burn there, something they planned on doing during these flights once V2 is actually in space and not in pieces. But it looked like once you get to that right before the 30-second point, things got very spicy and toasty in their flame trench. He said the thing. So I guess the real question is going to be what happened. So we've got the rollback now. We've got the upcoming transport closure as well, May 5th and May 6th. What do we think's going on here with Ship 35, and what do we think we saw last night?
So this thing was Yeah, sure, man. This thing was definitely okay. So two things. I don't think anybody here can deny that something went wrong here. Now, how long was this static fire? Like 23 seconds or something?
We counted it at just over 30 seconds.
Just over 30. Interesting. Okay. So, have we seen SpaceX historically do a 30-second static fire? To my knowledge, I've seen, what have we seen, like 15? Alex, where are you at?
I know we've seen a 20-second. We've obviously seen, there's that flash event, by the way, happening right there. We saw the 1 minute for the previous ship, but never a 30-second.
Yeah, see, I'm not sure if that was supposed to be like that, because we know that SpaceX did a minute duration burn on Ship 34 to try and corroborate their harmonic resonance problems, to try and isolate that failure mode. The two things that I was going to say is that either they put this thing on the test stand and it did something completely different than last time, which doesn't really make a lot of sense, because why would you do the exact same thing with 35 that you did with 34 knowing it's going to pop? That's not iterative design. You would change something. You would change something and then try to induce a failure mode. Whatever that popping was, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that SpaceX may have been trying to isolate a failure mode. Now, maybe they did that a little too hard. So for the people that don't know, like, what's isolating a failure mode? So whenever you have a problem with a launch vehicle, you're going to do a fault tree analysis. You're basically going to do the equivalent of, well, did you turn it off and turn it back on again? But you ask that question pretty much 1,000 different times about 1,000 different components, right? Now, when you eventually do get back to the test stand and you fire it, right? Okay, so thinking is like this. Okay, so if we fire it for this long with this amount of engines, with this amount of fuel, will it fail at this particular point? You make a hypothesis about that, and then SpaceX put it on the test stand. If they were trying to isolate a failure mode here and it corroborated, we think it's going to fail at 30 seconds, or let's do a 30-second burn and see if it fails, right? And it does. Well, that's good engineering. That means your analytical model was correct, and that means you've isolated a failure mode. Now, I think from what I saw here and what we heard from your coverage last night, Sawyer, I think they may have isolated a failure mode a little too hard. I think they may have zigged when they should have zagged. It's like, it seems like something was damaged from the sounds that we heard. But then again, they might be trying something different with Raptors, so we might be hearing different sounds.
But
what's
there's
up?
a difference, though, sound-wise, at the end of that. Normally, you expect to hear the honk of the shutdown. We didn't really hear that. It was a weirder sound. And also, talking about failure points, the area where this happened looked identical, just based off of what we could see from our ground cameras, at least. That it was very similar to the area where they had the issues with Flight 7 and Flight 8. There was some spicy area, it looked like, around where that engine is in the attic, so to speak, where the kind of area right above those engines, which was one of the issues that they had during the last flights.
It sounds weird to say potentially, but this might be, especially if this is the same failure mode, this might be one of the best things to possibly happen. Because on the previous flights, okay, they had the issue pop up, there were some major issues, and then the ship re-enters and they can't get back the hardware. They can't really investigate with the hands-on learning to figure out exactly what happened. If this is a similar failure mode and they can dive in with all of their ground cameras, all of the data that they have, and they can get hands-on with the hardware to get an even better understanding. Even if this does mean a delay to the next flight, this could be the best thing to happen.
Mm-hmm. If they figured out something, if they pushed it to its limit and it actually hit the limit, well, now you know where the limit is, D. I'm with you. That's a good thing. Now, that doesn't mean we're going to see a Flight 9 sooner, but that means we'll see a Flight 9 later that doesn't, explode.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, you have the benefit. I see a couple people saying in the chat, and as you were pointing out, D, the fact that Ship 7, bunch of tiny pieces at the bottom of the ocean and on a couple of land masses. Ship 34, same deal. Most of it's in the ocean, couple ended up on land masses. This one, you have the whole thing in one piece on the ground that you could bring in, take apart, dissect, reject, infect, whatever you need to do to go and take a look at everything inside of it and see exactly how your systems did or didn't work. Do I think that they were actually trying to test to failure? I don't think so. It just based off of what it looked like, I think we may have been trying for a replica of the Ship 34 test again, do the full minute and see what you get out of it.
Yep.
This definitely didn't seem like it was a planned 30-second burn, but I mean, thoughts?
Sawyer, cast your mind back to what SpaceX said after they did that minute duration burn. They said they operated Starship at a couple of different levels to try and isolate that harmonic resonance problem. Maybe they got through some of the different regimes here 30 seconds in and isolated it a little too hard. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then Starship's like, oh, something broke. Nope, let's stop.
Yeah, Sawyer, I'm totally with you. I don't think this was in any way intentionally testing to failure, but that doesn't mean they aren't trying to find those harmonics. It doesn't mean they aren't trying to gain an understanding of when there's some instability. And so, yeah, I don't think they would I don't think this was an intentional test to a failure, but even still, I don't think seeing it here is bad.
Well, speaking of harmonics, let's listen to the test and see what we can hear as well.
Yeah,
that's not a honk.
Something there definitely did not do what it was supposed to do.
Yeah,
that big flash right before everything stopped.
That high-pitched whining noise, especially as it grew too. And again, keep in mind there is the sound delay because light travels faster than sound, and we were a couple miles away from it. But you could hear that high-pitched sound right before it quickly got quiet.
Yeah. I mean, that's now see, like, that's the thing, you know, like, if it was anything else, if it was somebody that's doing like a qualification test with a waterfall style testing regime, right? And that happened, I'd be like, man, that's bad. That's bad. But because SpaceX does that rapid prototyping and rapid iteration that they want, it opens up a new can of worms that could have been an induced failure. Now, do I think it was? Probably not. They probably don't want to blow up their multi-million-dollar spaceship. But if blowing up your multi-million-dollar spaceship means, you know, a future one, or even this one after it's been fixed, potentially gets into space, and you can continue with the evolution of your, you know, the most complicated launch vehicle ever designed, I think that's a small price to pay, right?
Yeah, and by the way, I'm aware there was definitely cars driving by from where that audio was taken. You can hear the cars going by. I was talking about beyond the car noise, listening into the sound, because you could hear the normal kind of honk when the other engines do shut down. If you listen at the end, you can still hear that, but right before that is when you get that kind of odd noise right around when the flash would be. Let's see here. I know a bunch of people with questions. EJ, I'll throw this one to you. Luke
Hello.
Bauer saying, looked like an engine-rich exhaust. I saw green. We did see kind of, looked like a green flash. It's hard to tell with the colors just based off of how quickly the camera changed. But what are your thoughts on it running rich right there?
It's possible. Yeah, it's definitely possible. If so, say, keep in mind this is just a conditional hypothetical that could give you this problem. We know that they're trying to isolate basically the fuel lines moving around too much. Now the fuel lines are vibrating like crazy. They're vibrating so hard that they basically hit a resonant frequency and they start leaking fuel everywhere. So think about that for a second. If that is, and once again, it's a hypothetical, so just bear with me. If that is what's going on and a fuel leak is what's happening, that means your engines are going to run extremely oxidizer rich. They will lean out. When a rocket engine runs way too heavy on the oxidizer side of things, because oxygen is not very good at taking heat, it's not good at absorbing heat. Generally, other things absorb the heat that's not oxygen that's going through the engine. Conversely, a lot of engines run fuel rich on purpose. I mean, Raptor is kind of not either one of those, but there are engines out there that run fuel rich, and the fuel is because has hydrogen in it. No matter what, methane, kerosene, or hydrogen, no matter what you want to use, fuel has hydrogen in it. Hydrogen's very conductive of heat. It's very good at absorbing heat, right? So you can use fuel as basically a cooling system. The Merlin engine does that. That's why Falcon 9 has all that. It looks like it rolls coal, right? Because it has it's flying through the fuel rich exhaust of the turbo pump, or not the turbo pump, the gas generator in this particular scenario. Now, if the harmonic resonance that they're trying to chase did induce a fuel leak, the engine would go oxidizer rich. And if it goes oxidizer rich, saying it like that is a little weird. If it leans out, yeah, the engine will tank the heat. And by that, I mean it'll burn it off. So the green could be copper burning. That's what happens. If a Raptor engine, we've seen from the suborbital hops, guys, that if a Raptor engine runs out of fuel and they just put oxygen into it, it gets too hot and it starts melting the copper jackets inside of the nozzle in the throat that's used for cooling. And when copper burns, it burns green.
Ooh, I have a copper jacket. I need to wear that next stream.
No, you don't want to set you on fire. That's bad.
This host is on fire. Oh, okay. Anyway,
Oh dear.
Boy, I'm just embarrassing myself today, aren't I?
Oh, it's fine. Here, I'll pick my nose on stream to make up for it. There you go. I got you, man.
Wow.
We'll go to the loony bin together, bro. I don't give a frick.
Is this like the Adam Sandler bit where all the cool kids pee their pants?
Yeah, of course I did. Everybody does that. It's the coolest.
Well.
Off the rails a little bit.
I think Ship 35 leaked a bit too. It's fine.
Nice.
There's a poll going on, by the way. Ship 35 static fire. It was fine. It was a bit off, but not major. Or oof, big delay expected now, which it is very close between it was a bit off but not major, and oof, big delay. It's 47 to 44%, and 9% think it was fine. Just an interesting note. And a question I keep seeing pop up, Dee, I'll throw this one to you. Do we know, Steve is asking, what was the prop load last night in comparison to Ship 34's 60-second static fire? I mean, it was definitely more than the single engine we saw the night before.
Yeah, so thanks to Alex in the back channel for getting all this together. I would not have this off the top of my head. It's the same amount of propellant as we saw on Ship 34's 60-second static fire, because they actually need the full load of propellant in the ship to sort of help weigh it down. So that means it's not the same as the one at the time of the failures during Flight 7 and 8.
So it seemed like everything was set for it, and yeah, that's kind of just what we're used to seeing prop load wise. It's not like they can change how much they load to try and simulate where it was in flight when an anomaly occurred or things like that, as you put it out, just because of the mass of the vehicle needed to keep everything kind of stationary and not pull a China.
Yes, that's right.
That's 3 days in a row now I've been able to make a joke at the expense of the not-so-static fire, and I'm very proud of each one of them still.
Non-static fires are exciting.
When there's planned to not be static, technically every Falcon 9 launch is a non-static fire once it lifts off.
Yeah, unplanned, unstatic fires are not great. That was an eventful. That was an eventful one.
Yeah. One interesting thing, again, Alex pointing out here, is that we have yet to hear anything from SpaceX about this. I mean, about 24 hours-ish, or less than 24 hours after the single-engine static fire, that's when we got the replay and the word that that was an attempt, basically, at the in-orbit engine fire, which, shout out to Alex, who also predicted that on the night of that first stream. But is it a little odd to anyone that we haven't heard anything, or is this kind of just SpaceX going to SpaceX? Dee, what do you think?
I mean, it could be that, okay, yeah, they saw the issue and they maybe want to. They could have even been ready with tweets or saying, heading to the pad now after a successful static fire. And maybe now that they saw this, they're like, okay, let's understand it. I definitely think if this was a expected outcome, we absolutely would have seen something by now. And I'm hopeful that we will hear something about it. Maybe once they have a better understanding of exactly what happened and what the plan moving forward will be.
So speaking of the plan moving forward, here comes the interesting question now. Adrian is asking, do you think SpaceX might go straight to Ship 36 for Flight 9 while tearing Ship 35 apart to analyze it? I'll go to everyone on this. I'll include my thoughts at the end. EJ, I'll start with you.
Have they ever done that with the Starship before?
I don't know, Jake.
I don't think so. Jake, what do you think?
I want to hear Jake's thoughts on this.
Here's the mic. What's your opinion, Jakey?
What, the Red Sox are a good baseball team? Wow.
No.
Jeez, I didn't expect
say that in this household. He would be kicked out.
Jake's wrong. Jake thinks that.
Oh my God! Did you hear that?
no.
Kevin Michael Reed said you're wrong, Jake.
Oh no!
What do we say to Kevin for that? Yeah, I don't agree with you. I agree, Jakey. Anyway, back to Starship.
I'm sorry. What was the question? I'm sorry. I couldn't help it.
Do you think that they would say take apart 35 and swap out 36 instead for the next flight?
Cool. I don't think they've done that before. I don't remember them particularly doing that. I think they'll. I mean, SpaceX likes to run hardware rich, or sometimes engine rich too. Whoa, got him. They like to run hardware rich. I think they'll repair it. I don't think they'll take it apart. I think it would be really good data if you fixed Ship 35, right, and then put it on the stand again and see what happens. Now, does that mean that maybe they'll launch 36 with the implemented fixes that they learned from 35 first. Yeah, I mean, Adrian, maybe, sure. Yeah, that's not a bad hypothesis. But I mean, it really depends. Once again, it really depends on the severity of what happened. Whether it was an induced failure or whether, they put it on there like, okay, we want this to work for 1 minute and then it didn't,
True. Your thoughts, D?
Yeah, I mean, I think it all depends on exactly what the damage here is. We didn't have cameras underneath the rocket to see exactly what happened, to have a good idea of how much time it would take to fix it. I mean, I would assume it's most likely whether it's do an engine swap, something like that, maybe replace a bit of plumbing, and then just fly it, then they'll actually spend the time implementing whatever fix for the next ship, delaying flight. Like I think it's most likely that they just do a bit of a fix and get it flying, but who knows exactly how much we can't see.
Yeah, exactly. And Ryan Caton in the back channel with a great point. Remember, Ship 31 literally electrocuted itself and still flew. Yes, Sparky.
There you go.
Forgot about that one.
Sparky was a good one. Sparky.
Yep.
Sparky did pretty well once it actually flew. Once they get the kinks out on the ground, it worked in the air. So hopefully the same thing happens on this. I think in terms of how quickly they want to get things going, I think it is faster to go in and look at Ship 35, make those changes, and then move on and continue with the process for that ship. Especially if you want to talk about, hey, they saw a problem that maybe replicated what they saw in flight during the previous flights. That's even better, because now you have the physical hardware that you worked on, and rather than getting another booster that may have, or another ship that may have the same issues, you've got the one that you saw the issue in. You can make the fix and see immediately whether that was the problem or not. So it's going to be interesting to see. But I think they're going to stick with it. What this means for a launch date, though, that's a whole nother question. What do we think for Flight 9? Do you think that this is going to, when launch, I guess, when launch for Flight 9? And I'll see what chat thinks on that as well.
So I'll just hop in saying, leading up to the static fire last night, I was formulating plans in my head to go detect this.
Yep.
After seeing the static fire, that is not a thought in my mind.
Yeah, couldn't have said that better myself.
So I don't have
pretty much exactly what I was going to say.
Timeline or prediction, but it's far enough away that I am not planning my drive or flight out there.
Ooh, EJ.
D took the words right out of my mouth. Yep. That same thing. I was getting ready to be, oh man, I got to make planes. Nope, never mind. Nope.
Chuck Testa.
Nope. And it's gone. It's gone. It's all gone.
It's
gone.
There it goes. Yeah.
And it's gone.
Yeah, I think this is going to be very interesting to see where they go from here in terms of timing. And the other question, Smile, using their 4-month member milestone with a good question here, asking, any chance for a second attempt? Do you think they will re-static fire? And if so, do you think they will go for the full minute? Because I personally could see them going ahead and saying, you know what, let's fix it and let's try it again. And let's aim for that full minute like we did with Flight 8. I mean, you could go for a 5 or 10 second one, sure. But based on the fact that this one looked like whatever occurred around the 30-second mark, why not push it to the minute, test all of your stuff, and send it again? Of course, that is going to, like we just said, push the date. I think now we're talking kind of towards the end of May. I could say May 17th just to anger Adrian Bile and his love of the Eurovision Song Contest, the one day he would be unavailable. But did I say March? I meant May.
I think it's.
I don't know.
I think it's very likely that they do whatever their fix is. Then eventually go for another static fire of the full minute. They really don't want a ship failure this flight. That would be. I mean, once isn't great. 2 times in a row is bad. if it happens again. But
We have a
So-
closure here, folks. Amended. This is for, it says March 2nd. I believe they mean May 2nd. That's why people are saying March. SpaceX will be conducting TxDOT approved transportations on Highway 4 from the factory to the pad sometime between 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. or from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. Huh.
so
Oh,
what's
cube zoom.
moving?
I mean, taking a look there is an SPMT, or next to the OLM, it looks like, right? Or near the Pad B launch mount, the transporters for it. I don't know. What do we think?
Yeah, they're getting ready to move that. Yeah, they're getting ready to move it. I mean, the two Liebherr 11,000s are over the Pad B trench, SPMTs at the OLM at Sanchez, and they're removing scaffolding.
This
Let's
image
hit
is it's by Caesar, by the way, who is out there as they're getting ready to
Cesar.
looks like move the OLM. That's really exciting.
Yeah, this just did. Thank you, Caesar, for capturing that and getting it to us quick enough that we could pull it right on here as breaking news. That's another week in a row with breaking news right here on the Flame Trench. But, man, to see the state that it's at now, I mean, that bodes well. I'm sorry, I'm going to bring it back to it because both of you are at KSC here. I can't wait for the one now in Florida, right? I mean, with how quickly they got this one, that means we have the potential to see the OLM moved to 39A by the end of the year, I'm thinking. I don't know.
Yeah.
EJ,
Yeah.
what do you think?
Sawyer, I think that, look, if you go on Google Earth right now, and this is probably going to age poorly, like I just jinxed myself, right? If you go on Google Earth right now, the latest picture of where Pad B is from the middle of 2024. Okay, so less than a year ago, right? Well, actually, we're kind of almost to the middle. You get what I'm trying to say. It was less than a year ago. There's nothing there. Suborbital Pad B is still there. So, right, if we're going to take this pad's going to be ready sooner rather than later, right? But we're talking about one from the Cape, right? The second pad is always going to be less. It's going to take less time to make. The reason why it's going to take less time to make is because you know how to put it together. First time is going to take a second. You got to figure out all the processes. So Sawyer, I think that pad's going to be ready sooner rather than later. I mean, SpaceX has an internal goal for the end of the year. Not sure it's going to be ready that quickly, but yeah, I'm hyped, dude. Seeing a Starship dart out of Kennedy is going to be amazing, dude.
D, as our resident actually at the Cape person, not in front of a green screen.
No.
Hey, I'm there.
EJ's right
I'm
here.
there.
Sorry,
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
I'm
I'm right next. Yeah.
Let me
I'm
see
right
you
next
both
to
on the camera at the same time next to each other then.
Well, we can't. That would be inefficient.
Right
There's
here.
3
Yeah.
cameras.
What's up? No.
Yeah.
What's up? Other way.
Yeah, you're right next to him totally as you look in the
Totally.
same
That's
direction.
totally what's going on. Hey,
Yeah.
dude, what's up? High five. High five.
Oh wait,
Oh.
You left him hanging.
Wrong way. Wrong way.
Okay.
There we go.
Anyway,
As I look to my left at the tower at 39A, yeah, this is going to be an absolutely wild view when Starship finally launches out of here. Starbase is already incredible as is, but to watch Starship launch and land from right here.
Oh god.
Wait,
No, dude, wrong side right there. Hey,
There we go.
What are you doing?
that'd be absolutely wild. What's up, everyone?
Yeah, hey, we're totally right next to each other.
Oh,
That's,
yeah.
That's absolutely what's going
do your
on.
shoulders cut off. There you go. But
Yeah.
both at the Cape together. But yeah.
So D, I don't have my reading glasses on. How far is the is 39A from the press site? I can't see.
It's about 3 miles off the top of my head.
Is that closer than any viewing location in Starbase?
It's right on the mark there. It's a bit closer, I think. and it definitely feels way closer than anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, you got the turning basin. Got that turning basin right in front of you. It gives you a nice clear shot. That's gonna be pretty cool. It's gonna be pretty cool.
It looks like it's about the same distance to our river camera site.
Oh.
Nice.
Yeah. Also, I love that the Cape is taken over by the initials EJ and D at KSC in front of the VAB.
Yo,
Right,
go
so-
off, man. You got bars. Go off.
Yeah. No, never mind. Let's see here. So, with this moving now, hopefully, when do you think we'll see flights from Pad B then at Starbase? I'll go with that. And I'll see what chat thinks as well. I'm interested to hear everyone's thoughts. When do we think we'll now see Pad B and Florida launches? So we've got, let's start with EJ on this one.
I could see Ryan Weber somewhere out there. He's watching this stream and he's listening very intently, and his head's about to pop from what I'm about to say. I say Pad B in the summer, maybe a month and a half from now. Just wait for it. Did you hear it?
I don't think there's going to be any launches for at least a year from Pad B. I'm Ryan Weber.
Sorry, Ryan.
Wow, Ryan, you sound a lot like Kevin. Anyway.
Sorry. So, I could see the smoke coming out of his ears from here. No. Yeah, I don't see why. I mean, guys, they're making some pretty great progress here. I'd say the end of the summer. Like, I don't know. Let's say Labor Day. That makes no sense to people that don't live in the United States. I just realized that. September 1st. Okay.
D, what do you think? Because I'm getting all the readings here from chat.
Oh, Ryan said it might be ready. Yes. All right.
Wow.
All right.
Wait, who is this in the back channel?
wait.
What did you do with Ryan Weber?
Yes.
Okay.
I will make you an optimist, no matter the cost.
Oh, wait, there's the pessimism, but they don't have a booster to fly from it, quote unquote.
Just reuse them. It's fine.
Yeah.
D, when do you think we get Pad B?
I'm gonna be a fan of East Coast here, and I'm gonna say, there's no way that Pad B is any time before mid next year, but we're getting a launch from KSC this year, 100%.
Bold.
I mean,
Bold.
Slightly out there prediction, very out there prediction.
Here's the thing: Gulf Coast isn't the worst coast. That's West Coast, so it's fine. You can give some praise to the Gulf Coast.
No. You can't call it the worst coast.
Starts with the same letter. Sure can.
I think we need to call Jack in here.
No.
Yes, I know, Eric. I know it's a bit of a silly prediction, but I want to be able to just watch Starship launch here.
Hey, guys, Jack's also here at the press site. Jack, what do you have to say? What do you have to say about that? I think that, I'm really coming around on it. I think the East Coast is way better. Geez, oh God. Wow, thank you. You've seen the light, man. That's great. Oh yeah, guys, I gotta go fix my broken car. I'll be right back. See, you heard it here first, guys. There you go.
Rack Dryer himself.
Rack Dryer.
But let's see. So I'm seeing a lot of August Q3. Some people thinking 4th of July. A lot of people are saying mid-2026 as well. Someone saying, what was it? Pad B in September. And then later for 39A. I mean, yeah, Pad B absolutely is farther along. That is a very good point. But at the same time, keep in mind that this pad had to be completely built from the ground up. They had to build the entire tower from scratch. KSC has had the tower there for a while. Yes, there's the OLM, but based off of what we saw in the last KSC flyover, I mean, we're only talking probably a couple months behind where Pad B's progress, or where the OLM for Pad B's progress was compared to what we saw from the air at Roberts Road in Florida. So I think, I mean, it feels like it's a no-brainer to say that Pad B will be ready this year. I think summer is a fair bet and that we will definitely see a launch from Pad B this year. For 39A, I mean, they're making some great progress on the trench. Of course, we always have our flyover pictures and then the satellite imagery from Harry Stranger. who manages to get some amazing high fidelity shots that he posts to X as well. I mean, that trench is coming along really fast, really well. And don't forget, you can watch the progress at Starbase or Space Coast Live 24/7. Hey, what do you know? That's it on the screen. But I think that the pad will be ready by the end of the year, and I think that we will see a launch from 39A at the beginning of 2026. But I think it's safe to say that we will have the OLM out, you will have the trench dug, and everything kind of in place before the end of this year at 39A. That's my prediction, at least.
Yeah, I think
So-
in actuality, in all seriousness, I think that's a very reasonable prediction compared to my desire for the Space Coast to surpass Texas.
I have a question.
We may
Yes,
have an
Kevin?
answer.
Okay, here's my question. Where are they getting the rocket? Where's the rocket at 39A?
They're shipping it over.
Okay. Yeah. So I think the easy solution is just real quick send one on a barge over. The hopeful long-term solution is just launch one over here, land it at 39A. But that I'd say unlikely. But I would say it seems likely that initially they'll just barge one over. But hey, they're getting ready with a very, very large footprint for a gigabay here, at which point they won't need to worry about getting the rockets here.
I can't remember the details, but what were the details on how long the gigabay was going to take to build at KSC?
Oh, I'm bad with timelines.
Did
I
they
am
give
too.
us a
Alex
timeline
is
on it?
probably in the back. I think there was something. There's a
Because I
date.
know they
Alex
did the
is
whole big
typing.
They did the whole big updates thing. End of 26.
End of 2026.
So that's SpaceX time. Take that with a grain of salt.
Now, the real question is, though, are we going to get Starship from the Cape before GTA 6?
I think
Guaranteed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's be real here. I mean, we got SLS
Dang.
development before GTA 6. Like, the SLS went... Yes. I think that's
Yes.
likely.
Okay.
Do you think that SLS completes all its flights before GTA 6? Or do you think SLS flies again
Wow.
before GTA 6?
I think we're going to get Artemis 2 before GTA 6.
I think you're right. Which is
I think that's plausible.
scary.
This is now the game trench.
Oh, I realized that I moved a little bit, and the camera showing the tower shook a little bit. I'll be stationary here, because that camera is an arm's length away.
Yeah, just whack the camera. It'll be fine.
I will not do that, Kevin. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Can you do it again?
Thanks,
If it
Steve.
makes Kevin mad, just do
Come
it
on.
again, please.
Which, by the way, yes, we have a gaming channel as well with people that do play GTA 5 and with mods and everything in the Discord. Subtle plug.
Wait, we do?
Subtle. Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yes, really. I believe there's a GTA server as well.
You didn't think of telling the guy that plays video games for a living about this, or?
Well, it's not like you do GTA racing or anything on at nights or anything, right?
That's what I wanted to hear. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I know it's been a little bit inactive recently, but it's there. All right, let me hit some support here that's starting to build up. Jerwa with the $50 super chat. Are you ready for this very difficult one? It's a thought-provoking one. Hi.
Yeah, I'm ready. Do it.
Oh, okay. Hold on. Let me formulate my response here. Hi.
Good to see you, Jerwa here. It's a name that we're used to seeing all the time. So thank you for that. And I know we missed the $200 one that rolled in as we were rolling the outro last week. So I want to make sure we acknowledge that as well. That came just as time was expiring. So thank you so much, Jerwa, for the support. We love seeing you. We love seeing your name. So thank you.
Minor
Also,
downfall,
holy
I don't play
boxes.
League. I don't play League. I was a StarCraft player, but I here's a surprise. I got big streaming on Twitch playing Kerbal Space Program. I didn't see that one coming.
No. That's totally not how I met you at all.
Yeah, I didn't see that one coming.
Also,
The sequel? No, they never made
on
one.
Screen, Kevin.
I need to spend more time playing Kerbal.
What?
We need to get Kevin Michael Reed to play Kerbal and also accept the free copy that I gave him. He still hasn't accepted it yet.
I have a single-digit number of hours.
D!
Really?
Really?
Wow. But anyway, Kevin, when are you going to accept it so that we can actually get you playing Kerbal?
Sorry, I had a visitor at my studio. I don't know.
At least accept it in Steam.
I mean, I could accept it. Yes, that's the thing. But DOS says like I need to understand subway maps and all this other stuff, and I it's so confusing, and physics.
But it's not. It's easy.
It's not confusing.
I don't
EJ,
launch
tell him.
rockets. I just switch video of them.
Hey, how many buttons does the switchboard have in your studio?
All of them.
Yeah, you can play Kerbal. Yeah, that's what I thought. Think before you talk.
I haven't counted the number of buttons and the number of levers that I have, but there are a lot of them. There are 4 Stream Decks on my desk right now, and there's at least 10 levers.
If you can press buttons, you can launch a rocket.
It doesn't need to launch well, but you can launch it. Yeah.
I never said anything about what happens after that. I said if you press buttons, you can launch a rocket. Just saying.
Launch, not successfully.
Yeah, hey, it might be successful, D. You don't know that.
Yeah.
You would know if you played Kerbal more.
Wait, actually, Jay is telling me that there's a mod that I can use in Kerbal Space Program to put cameras on rockets.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, of course.
Oh,
yeah,
I'm more interested in this now. Is
downloading
this...
now.
Okay.
Yes, so you can't say you have no cameras either.
I mean, there are a lot of times during launches that I have no cameras.
Yeah, as we've heard, and the members behind the scenes. Which, that's another one. When Starship does launch, we have the members behind the scenes look at all of the production side of things, too, as a member's perk, just saying. Let's see. Roseanne DeVasto with a $10 super chat. Thank you for all the support today, saying they need to get control of Starship. Yeah, that'll be nice. Jeff Rode, thank you for gifting a Red Team membership. Ethereal Swordsman, I'm playing Kerbal right now. Got a Titan with the Arion boosters, about to send tourists to orbit. Kevin, that would make sense if you play the game.
Which Arion boosters? Ethereal, are you talking like P120Cs? Are you talking like the Arion 5 boosters? What are we talking about here? What kind of boosters did you put on the side of a Titan? This is important.
I guess we should also get back to actual like Starship questions. There's one here from Ian.
Hey, what am I not talking about? Rockets?
I said Starship. You're talking Arion.
Oh, Starship's a rocket.
Ian is saying, is there any reason the Starship booster couldn't be your first stage lift and then it's adapted to any second stage and you could just refly the booster?
Yeah, that was in regards to talking about different architectures that don't necessarily rely on SLS. Yeah, Ian, you could do that. I mean, sure, but that's going to change SpaceX's plans up, right? It's going to change it up. I mean, like, there's no reason why we couldn't do that in the future. Maybe if NASA wants to procure 39A, for like Starship booster landings or build their own pad or something, right? But you don't want to interfere with SpaceX's plans. NASA needs to ramp up with SLS and stuff, but it shouldn't be at SpaceX's to the detriment of SpaceX's progress either. Because anything like any scenario where you're just using Starship, because SLS is expensive and it doesn't work, is not addressing the problem that has plagued NASA, frankly, since the shuttle program started. You need a viable architecture. You need a viable architecture that gets you somewhere. NASA hasn't been able to decide on an architecture beyond low Earth orbit in 50 years. Right? So, putting NASA stages on top of a Super Heavy doesn't necessarily fix the problem, but that could be a good interim thing to do, maybe. But we already have SLS. Why re-engineer? Why go re-engineering Super Heavy and Starship to do something like that? you're going to re-engineer an upper stage to go on top of a super heavy. Yeah, you do get your booster back, which I do agree with. I don't like that SLS is expendable as much as any other person, right? But why do that when you've already engineered it to fly on SLS, right? What I'm saying here is finish the EUS, finish the universal stage adapter, get Orion to where its heat shield isn't a complete pile of avcoat, and just let the thing work for you. You know what I mean? Don't try to re-engineer anything. Just baseline it and keep going. Like do a Falcon 9 Block 5 with SLS 1B and go from there. Switching it around and changing it is just going to increase that stopgap that I was talking about, dude.
There you go. Also, I know Kevin was trying to put some breaking news up on the screen with another photo from Caesar. This is spotted at Starbase, and the caption is saying an interesting piece that was observed here. So, what do we think this is?
I think that's modern art that's going to go into the Welcome Center.
Replace
that's
the
a
Elon statue?
Velociraptor. It's a Velociraptor. Yeah.
I totally see it.
Yeah.
I hope that goes next to the Elon statue there.
I don't know. If I had to put my finger on it, if I'm gonna go ahead and guess, Sawyer, I'm guessing that's part of the tail service masts for the OLM. I don't know if SpaceX they call them BQDs, right? Like, I think that's the chassis for it.
I mean, it's worth noting that the OLM, if they do move it, which it seems like they're going to very soon, is not fully complete yet. They still have more work to do on it, but that's work that would be done out at the pad at this point. So, it could be.
Ryan Weber was telling me that the OLM right now is pushing 900 tons. I'm pretty sure you should probably do the rest of the work out at the pad. You need 2 Liebherr 11,000 cranes pushing 440. No, I didn't even know they got more than 440,000 pounds of counterweight on the back. Like, that's probably just going to keep going and go right over to the pad, or maybe they build them at Sanchez and then move them.
Yuri is saying in chat that that's a hat.
A hat?
It's a hat. Yes.
What kind of hat?
I don't know. That's what Yuri says it is.
Что?
I don't think my neck.
Yeah, I don't think so. Maybe I don't know, maybe a boot, but I don't know about a hat. Anyway, you'll be able to see all of this as it breaks if you follow all of our NSF socials, where you can see these first when they come out. So make sure you follow us on all the socials: Facebook, X, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, and TikTok. You happy, LSR?
Hi, LSR.
A couple more bits of support here. G. Mullins, while we're briefly talking about the SLS stuff still, was saying, do you think SLS could stay if Boeing could get prices down on launch and be quicker on building? Because SLS is very expensive.
Yes, absolutely. That's what we should be doing. We should launch it more, not less. We've already spent billions of dollars developing this vehicle, and it works. Anytime a program gets canceled with hardware that has flown, it has historically proven to be a really, really dumb decision in hindsight. Every time. It hasn't worked one time. Hey, let's cancel the Saturn V because the shuttle's cheaper. No. No, the shuttle's too old. It's too expensive. Let's rely on commercial crew. Yep. Okay, that took a little bit of time, but yeah, okay, we're there. See what I mean? It doesn't really pan out. NASA always suffers every time we do something like this. Let's put it to work. Expand it. You got to remember, the contracts right now are only for 4 SLS. NASA should do a block buy of these dang things and ensure SLS flights for the next 10 years. I know people are going to look at me like I'm crazy, but your unit price is going to go down if you buy in bulk. It doesn't matter if you're at Walmart buying toilet paper or you're buying rockets, procuring rockets for the U.S. government. You buy in bulk, the unit price goes down. That ensures job security, and that should get us to a point where at least Starship can be on par with SLS. In 10 years, no one, I don't think anybody can make the argument that Starship isn't going to be like one of the greatest launch vehicles ever devised in a decade from now, right?
Yeah, I mean, so you're saying buy SLS at Costco, got it.
Yes, Precisely. It'll cost $1.50. It kind of looks like a hot dog.
Speaking of hot dogs, you can see that hot image there for Twist coming in hot immediately after the Flame Trench. That is our weekly serious news show with Alicia, where we go over all things in spaceflight. That's a little more on topic and less talking about stealing people's wives. So you should definitely watch that. A couple quick bits of support here. I still want to hit Morton with the Norwegian Chrono saying, could just be an engine that let go, has happened before, we just have to wait and see. We will definitely have to wait and see. And the poll, by the way, has switched. Winning now is oof, big delay expected. That's now up to 45%. It was a bit off, but not major at 44%, and it was fine at 12%. And then Ethereal Swordsman saying, technically, it's a Bobcat powered core with kickback boosters, Cheetah upper stage, and the pomegranate capsule. So there you go, EJ.
Okay. All right. Not bad.
Let's see here. I am being told that it is someone's birthday, and that would be Alicia of Twist fame. She's on a birthday vacation, so you will not see her on Twist this week, but make sure when you head over there, we will auto redirect you to it, that we leave all of the happy birthday Alicia wishes in chat for her. But
who's hosting Twist then?
You'll have to watch and find out. But one thing that I can say is I've been your host here at the Flame Trench, so I want to thank the people who joined me. EJ, thank you so much for joining.
No problem, Sawyer. It's always fun. Thank you for having me. I know being on here is a privilege. I know I go a little crazy from time to time, guys, but yeah. Thanks for being with us. Thanks for being here, and it's a privilege being on here. I stream over on Twitch, twitch.tv/EJ_SA. And yeah, thank you for having me. It's a privilege being here, and I do appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Or if you apparently ask ChatGPT who is EJ from Twitch, hence his little name thing at the bottom, it will also direct you to him.
It knows me, and I don't like it.
D-Wise, thank you for joining us as well.
Of course, this was a series of interesting discussions, fun at times and heartbreaking at times, but it was great hanging out with all of you today.
And of course, we have to thank all of our members. We could not do what we do without you, in particular our launch directors and flight engineers, which are the highest levels of support that we have. You get your name at the end of the Flame Trench as a very special perk. So I want to make sure that we acknowledge all of you. And of course, launch directors and flight engineers also get access to the NSF Discord, where you'll be able to join us for the post-show. We also do a pre-show too, but you'll definitely be able to join us for the post-show immediately following this. So you'll be able to chat with us, things can get a little spicier, we'll keep the topics going. And I also have to give a shout out to the Cube Zoom master himself, with the Cube transition, Kevin Michael Reed, pushing the buttons, pulling the levers, and literally making our head spin by having it spin around in a box shape. See? I love it. So yes, we will now automatically redirect you over to Twist this week in spaceflight. Make sure you join us for that. Don't forget Shuttle Sunday actually returning as well this Sunday, 3 p.m. Eastern over on Space Coast Live. And there's another Starlink coming up Sunday too. So a lot to watch here. Make sure you subscribe so you know when it happens. Make sure you follow along. I'm Sawyer Rosenstein, along with Jake, have been your host here for this episode of The Flame Trench. Let's all head over to Twist, and again, wish Alicia a happy birthday there. Have a good one.
And here we go. We have liftoff.
Propulsion continues to be nominal.
RCPA chamber pressure looks good.
Probably not. Water planet.
Water towers, fly! Yes! Tango down to nominal.
Fighting downside FD off. Bring in FD off.
It's orange!
R45. Oh my god! Oh my god!
Decollage! Put that in the big bag, Signal.
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together, back to the moon and beyond.
If the methane would be igniting in the flare, correct?
Yikes. You read? Sure. We don't need any more of these.
Clear.
Yay!
Hey!
We are so bad.
All right.
We are so
backening level. Weird.
bad. Oh man.
That was good. That was a good one.
Echo, apparently, members are saying.
Echo.
Also, it seems as though members have a different view than usually. I saw a mention about that. Very chaotic.
Okay, guys, I gotta jet out of the post show a little bit early. So yeah, I'm out. Good job, everybody.
Bye, EJ. It was fun.
Yeah, it's fun. Thank you, guys. I'll see you.
Bye, EJ.
Bye.
Bye, Kevin. Bye, Mambies.
Perfect.
Freeze frame. Da, 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 da.